Welcome, everybody, to the CFF List Waiver Watch Draft for Week 11. I'm Jay Mill. I got my partner, as usual, Willie B., and we're joined for our final semi-finalist round by Jared Palmgren from Chasing the Natty and Campus to Canton. Welcome, guys. How's everybody feeling today?
Doing all right. Happy to have Jared along, that's for sure.
Yeah.
I'm glad to be back on. Oh, sorry.
Welcome back, Jared. I did want to say, I looked at the stats. We've done this for 3 years, and I believe you're the only person that's made it to the semifinals all 3 years. So you show and prove. That's all I can say.
I mean, it's the same thing as me in the King's Classic. I make it to the dance every year, just haven't been able to bring it home yet. There's some value in that, though. Just getting there every year.
Yeah.
I'm hoping to take it home this year. I think we can do it.
Right, you could be the Buffalo Bills, of the CFF world.
Whoa.
That's cold, J Mill. That's cold.
No, there's worse things to be. You could be a Titans fan like me, and really never get to the dance.
That's very fair, actually.
All right. Well, we did. We've been going with 3 folks here for a lot of these semifinal rounds. We extended it a week just to make sure we could get you in and make it fair for everybody. Next week, we will take the top 2 performers. Right now, that's Dwight Peebles and our guy, Joe Apazzi from the Purple Rain Twitter account. He's got 84 points that he scored last week. As you can see on the screen now, he had an 84.4. So that is your number to beat, Jared. It was a respectable performance by Joe and myself. We both scored right around the same number at 84 point something. He said he was kind of taking a chance with Sam Scott, but I don't think he planned for him to not play at all with Whaley returning. But something went wrong there with Scott. He didn't play. Otherwise, I think you would have seen Joe at least hit that 90 mark. I had just an in-game injury from Mims that held me back. Otherwise, I think I would have been able to get close to the 100 mark. But Mims went down early after only getting 2 carries. But I still managed to get 84. We were both helped by quality quarterback picks. The Old Dominion QB we had talked about, Colton Joseph. Michael Van Buren with the easier UMass matchup. Not sure he'll be able to repeat this performance again against Tennessee this week. We'll see if anybody has the nerve to take him. But Willie B was the one to shine. He's, I think, taken 3 in a row now. He had 115.1, just about a half a point shy of his season high. I think from week 7, somewhere in the middle of the season. But really benefited from a huge game, the 3rd best wide receiver game overall this week by Cameron Shanks from UAB, who he kind of just pulled out of nowhere. So nice job, Willie, on Cameron Shanks, and kind of the more known, but still miraculously was still under 30%, Ahmad Hardy, who was probably in contention here for, not just group of 5 freshman running back of the year, but potentially, one of the better freshman running backs overall as far as true freshman goes for the season. Kind of certainly in that true freshman All-American category with Ahmad Hardy, who broke off a nice 80-yard run against Marshall. And we knew they were a little soft against the run, but good job, Willie, on kind of your 4th week in a row here with a pretty impressive score.
Yeah, appreciate that. And I was looking at it. I don't think Scott actually even made the trip.
No.
So that's the thing about him that was really surprising. Going back to Sam Scott from Joe's picks.
Yeah. And Joe had warned everybody Whaley was back, who happened to have a monster game, by the way. I think he had like 27 carries for like 180 yards or something in that kind of ballpark. So for anybody that happened to hold on to Whaley, who it looks like he's still rostered on like 80% of teams. So people that had him knew he was coming back. I'm not sure how many, had the nerve to play him this week, because they might have been skeptical about the injury still. But it looks like he'll be reliable for these last 3 weeks of the season here. Hopefully, if you stashed him, he can help you get through the playoffs because he looked like he's back to the form we thought he would be before the injury. So good for him, because I know he's had like 3 rough seasons with injuries back to back to back. The kid can't make it through a season, but we know the potential's there. So nice to see him back.
But before we move forward, I mean, Cameron Shanks, man, he's just lightning in a bottle. And I expect big things going forward from him. I mean, he's not surprising. He had a 20-point game 2 weeks ago. But
right.
I surely did not expect the 46.2 that he put up. And it would have been more than that. I mean, he stepped out of bounds on another punt return.
Okay.
Otherwise, he'd have had another score. So,
Yeah, I've just seen his numbers. I can't say I've actually seen what he looks like or anything like that. But is he kind of one of those faster, twitchier guys, or kind of smaller, twitchier guys?
yes, I mean, he's about 5'8", 5'9". But like I said, I mean, he can reverse the fill on you pretty quickly and be gone.
Well, I kind of have a feeling somebody's going to grab him today in the 6 wide receivers that are taken. He's still sitting, I think, at 5 or 6%. So we'll see when we get there
Mm-hmm.
which one of us grabs him. I would guess one of us will take him again this week. He's worth it. But with that said, let's scroll down to the fresh draft board, Willie. We used the old handy dandy randomizer.org to determine the pick. I'm going first. Willie's there in the middle, which isn't a bad spot to be because we'll be, giving Jared 2 picks at the end, and then Willie will follow him as we snake back one time, for this draft. So I'm going to kick it off, and I felt like quarterback was the position that's a little sketchy this week. We've had a lot of weeks where we've waited on quarterbacks because there's been, 7 or 8 or 9 quarterbacks available. But there's one quarterback with a matchup that I just couldn't pass up. It fits right into his wheelhouse. It's dual threat QB out of Ohio, Parker Navarro, that I'm going to go with and kick it off. He's 14% rostered, so he should still be available in a lot of leagues. What I love is he's playing Kent State, who is just horrible, just awful on defense. 128th against the pass, but I believe they're also 34th against the run, giving up 26 rushing TDs and 20 passing TDs. And you've got a dual threat quarterback here who's going to be able to take advantage of both sides of that. So I wanted to make sure I grab one of, just 2 or 3 quarterbacks that I really was comfortable even putting on the list this week. So I'm pretty happy that I rolled the dice and got that first pick. So sorry, guys, if either one of you were looking for him.
I mean, he was my number 1 pick for this week as well. Like you said, you've had your chance to grab your quarterbacks off the waiver wire really the last 4 or 5 weeks. That's correct. I've said it over and over on my show. There's been just a solid group of guys that have been available week after week that if you haven't picked them up by now, you've just been asleep at the wheel. Right. And if you're looking for quarterbacks this week, you're a little out of luck. There's not a ton of great options out there. Now, there's still 2 guys on my list that I like, but Navarro, to me, out of all the players you're looking at this week, I think he's probably the clearest grab off the waiver wire, at least for just this week.
All right, so there you have it. I got the Jared cosign. I'm glad I made that pick then.
All right. So, if you guys hear anything, we're in a tornado watch that's pretty close. So,
all right.
Hopefully, I
you
won't
duck
have
under the desk.
Maybe I won't have to step away or anything, but we might be getting the siren here pretty soon.
All right.
So since you did that, I'm going to go ahead and grab one of your guys I know you've had a few times, J-Mail. Okay. And that's going to be George Pettaway, the running back from James Madison. He is still 23% rostered. He's coming off, let's see here. My screen is a little choppy right now. They had a bye, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, they had a bye. But his last game had 23.3, and then he's coming off still double-digit carries, double-digit points. He needs to get into that end zone, and I do expect him to do that against Georgia State, who is 123rd against opposing running backs.
Hey, I guess I'm up, and I get the back-to-back picks here. So
yes, sir.
I was gonna go quarterback if Navarro fell to me, but obviously J Mill's on it, man. He got my guy, so I'll split it here between running back and wide receiver. And you know what? It's worked for me in the past before, but you kind of double dip in here. Let's go with 2 guys from the same offense here. Let's go running back Eli Sanders out of New Mexico, and then I'm going to grab our new top wide receiver with the Lobos, and that is Mr. Ryan Davis there. I guess I'll talk about Eli here first. Eli is a guy that he started off the season pretty well, and then things kind of fell apart. It was a bit more of a hot hand situation there with New Mexico for a couple of weeks now. But over the last couple of weeks, he's really kind of solidified himself as the clear top guy here. He's had multiple touchdown games in 2 of his last 3 games here, 14 plus touches in each of his last 3 games, 15 plus in his last 2 here. Last week, monster game against Wyoming, 205 yards. I'm not expecting that this week, but they are going up against San Diego State, who is 106th in rushing defensive team performance according to our numbers at C2C Winning Edge. So for those of you who are listening to this show, maybe don't listen to my show, basically that metric analyzing that team's performance against the run compared to the offenses that they are facing, right? So if you're facing a team that's not usually very good against the run, but you give up a ton of rushing yards, you're going to get penalized even more than you would normally do against like a raw metric you might find on like teamrankings.com or like an ESPN or something like that, right? Eli Sanders going up against them. They're 106 in against the run in that metric. San Diego State is. So I like that matchup quite a bit there. I think he can get quite a bit done on, 15 to 20 carries or 15 to 20 touches somewhere in there, which is what he's been getting. And then Ryan Davis, the top end wide receiver here, ever since Luke Wysong's gone down, I've been a big fan of Luke Wysong, especially in full PPR formats. I had him everywhere. Hurt me a ton when he went down, but man, Ryan Davis, the number 2 wide receiver for the Lobos the last couple, or really this whole season, really, has stepped right into his place. 14 targets versus Colorado State. Didn't find the end zone, but managed to rack up 9 catches, 146 yards in that game. So in a full PPR league, you're sitting pretty with that. I mean, that's what, 23.6 points, and you didn't even have to find the end zone. And then this past week, 13 targets, 6 catches, 74 yards, and a touchdown. So he's just getting fed, just like Wysong was. And I'll be real, but given what we've seen so far this year, Davis actually has a better chance of finding the end zone than Wysong was able to. So I like grabbing Davis for this week. Again, San Diego State's a little bit better against the pass than they are against the run, but this is a team that in New Mexico that loves to get into shootouts. San Diego State should be able to put some points up on them. They'll be passing from behind. I think that both of these guys will be able to put up some points.
Yeah, I agree. Eli, you got me back, Jared. Eli Sanders was the top running back on my list this week, so we swapped top running back for top quarterback there. So you got me back. And the stat of the week that I heard, and I'm not even going to get it completely accurate, but it was something like Eli Sanders and Dampier were the first running back quarterback duo in like 25 years to have 200 yards rushing in the same game this week. So that was very interesting. So
I did not know that. That's incredible.
Yeah. So for the people, worried that, Dampier might, take away from what he's able to do, they proved this week that they're going to spread it out still, and they've both got the potential, even when they're on the field at the same time, to get plenty of yards. But yeah, he looked excellent, and I like that one a lot. And Ryan Davis, I didn't know quite as much about, so I'm going to go. There's still guys at the end of the season, you still find out about week to week. So I'm curious to go check him out a little bit more in depth. So, Willie, back here in the middle, what do you got?
Thinking about just going ahead and grabbing my guy, just so I know that you or Jared won't snag him.
Okay.
But I think I can still wait a little bit. I love waiting for these guys to come off buys. I think I'm going to go that one more time. I think I took him maybe about 2-3 weeks ago, but we're going to go Trey Wisner from Texas.
Oh yeah, okay.
Oh, yeah, good call. I didn't realize he's still under 30%.
Yeah, he's at 23 right now, and they get Florida, who is 94th opposing running backs. So still get another guy who's 23% rostered. His last few games, let's see, Oklahoma he had 23, and then Georgia 11.3, and then their last game at Vandy had 16.8. So he's getting 13, 15, 17 attempts. Coming off that bye, should be good and rested. Hopefully have another 17 to Yeah, well, if he can get 20, that'd be great. But he needs to get back over to that 100-yard rushing games and the end zone, obviously. And he has a little bit of receiving ability too.
Yeah, I think he's playing the right defense. Going against Florida, not so good. They're in the bottom half, in terms of giving up yards, giving up 14 touchdowns. So definitely room, and he's getting the volume now. You really haven't seen him get below 13 carries in the last several games. It looks like he's topped out at maybe 17, but he seems guaranteed now to get somewhere between that 13 and 17, which against Florida should be enough to get the yards that you need. So it is surprising, he's rostered on as few teams as he is. The guy you can grab him now for your dynasty team still too. He's going to be around Texas.
I would like to see a little bit more yardage out of his receptions though. I mean, so if he can squeeze a little bit more out of that, that'd be great. But
he's not very.
Yeah. So is it the agility? I'm not sure, but I expect a little bit more than close to 3.3 per reception.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and jump in on this running back train here because after the guy I'm about to take, there's not many that I am real confident in. I'm going to go back to Braden Bennett. I had him last week. Willie, you could check. As of last night, he was 29%. Am I still going to be able to take him, or did he get up to 30 overnight?
See, I didn't put him on my list only because because I didn't want him. But
I just don't want to. Is Willie going to say he's just a bad pick?
No, I'm not. Yeah, I'm not going to go say that. Yeah, he's at 29. Yeah, he's still at 29.
So, yeah, go ahead and give me Braden Bennett. He didn't let me down last week. He was, part of the reason I managed to get to 84 with the guy that got hurt. He's only had one bad game really in the last four. He had a 6.4-point game 3 weeks ago, but that was sandwiched by a 27 and a 32-point game. He had the respectable 17 this week. Again, once he came back from the injury early in the season, it was kind of clear he was going to be the guy they like to feed the ball the most, which we weren't sure about when the season started based on how things have been at Coastal with their running backs the last few years. I love the fact that he's playing Appalachian State as well. They're, really bad against the run D, 120th in yardage, 17 touchdowns. So he's probably even got a better matchup this week than he had last week against Troy. Let's go Braden Bennett from Coastal again, just because, again, after this, whoever I take as my second running back, I'm not going to have nearly the confidence, that I have in Bennett, which shows you the state of picking up running backs. Not quite as bad as grabbing a quarterback, but pretty slim pickings as far as, who I took down on my list. But with that, Willie, you do not have to take a running back. So let's see which way you go here because we're going to flip back.
It should be an easy one. We've talked about him. 12 targets, 11 targets, and he had 7 targets and the whopping 46.2 points, and that's Cameron Shanks. They're playing UConn. UConn has already given up a punt return for a touchdown. This kid, like I said, this kid's kind of electric, and I could see him having another punt return this week. But like I said, he's getting the targets, 5 receptions for 153 yards and 3 scores this week. So 5% rostered. Cameron Shanks.
Yeah, again, he's had the third best receiver performance. I don't know if he can keep up that efficiency in terms of the scoring versus the TD to catch ratio, but his targets have been up there. He actually had way fewer targets this week than he's had the 2 weeks before when he had 12 and 11. So I think he's a guy you don't have to worry about getting his hands on the ball. They're going to make sure they keep feeding him. So. Yeah, I like it. I knew somebody would take him. It was just a matter of when, for this week.
Yeah, I mean, you got some people trying to save their jobs, so, why not get it into the hands of your biggest playmaker right now and see what he can do.
Okay. All right. Let's see if Jared takes his QB Kitna now.
No, I'm not doing that. I have a rule against people with certain accusations being on any of my teams.
Jared.
Oh, I didn't even hear it. All right, well,
100, my friend, 100.
So I ain't going that direction.
Yeah. All right.
I am going to take a running back, though, because I don't want J-Mill, you were saying that your guys kind of fell off after Bennett and everything, and I don't blame you, although I do think Bennett is a little TD dependent, but, if he keeps scoring touchdowns, like, what am I going to do?
Right.
But to me, it kind of falls off a little bit after this next guy here in terms of this week value, this is a guy that's definitely burned me a couple of times this year. I ain't going to lie. He doesn't get the volume that I really love to see in running backs, but I don't think this is a week that he needs to have a ton of volume because his matchup is just so dang advantageous, and that is Floyd Chalk, running back out of San Jose State, rostered on 25% of rosters here. He's going up against Oregon State. Oregon State, bottom 2 in the country against the run in terms of their team performance defending the run here. Again, like I said, he doesn't get a ton of volume. Again, 10 carries, 12 carries, 10 carries over his last 3 games, but he's been pretty dang hyper efficient with those carries, right? He's finished with 61, 91, and 89 yards in those games. He scored a touchdown in 2 of his last 3 here. Again, you're not talking about any monster performances here, but given the matchup we're looking at here, I think he's got room to have probably his best performance that he's had over the last 3 weeks, especially if this dadgum coaching staff still can't figure out what the heck they want to do with this quarterback situation. Please, for the love of God, just give it to Chalk 20 times, win the game, and get out of there.
Right.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. By the way, it's 25% rostered there, Willie. I don't know if you need it. There you go.
Yeah, he's burned me too. Like I saw that, and I saw that he was there still, and he hurt me too much. He's just been a little too inconsistent for me. But this is a contest where we're looking for the outcome for this week specifically, and you've got him against the right team. So if you've got to grab somebody and you can get him, he's not available in quite as many leagues there with 25%, but he is available. He's a guy I think we all kind of hoped all year long would do a little better than he's done, but he's definitely got the potential. So he can hit the home run. So we'll see what happens there. All right. I don't have to go running back now, so I will wait to fill in that last, and I'll grab another guy that I had last week that I was pretty happy to get, and that's the wide receiver who I think has become the wide receiver 1 there at San Diego State, Jordan Napier, the redshirt freshman. I think, Willie, you confirmed he was a redshirt freshman last week going against New Mexico. Pretty bad passing defense. Jared mentioned they like to get into shootouts. They give up a lot of yards, a lot of points. Their offense is able to match that, but I don't care about New Mexico's offense this week. I love the fact that they're not very good against the pass on defense. So Napier did what I thought he would last week, had 22 points. That was following up 19 and 12 for the previous 2. So despite his 11 points per game, he's really turned it on these last few weeks, and seems like he's maturing into the top guy there, at the receiver spot for San Diego State. So I'll go Jordan Napier again.
I like that. I actually kind of snuck him in at the bottom, but I was hoping that I could pick him up a little bit later. So I like the pick.
No, he wouldn't have made it too much further. He was my number 3 wide receiver on my list. So
okay,
if you guys had taken my number 2, I would have had him off the board here pretty soon.
Okay.
All right. Good.
Well, I'm gonna go
get more co-signing.
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and grab my QB here.
Okay.
And this is a guy who the last 2 weeks, it's been a while since I've had a 30-point quarterback. So
okay.
I'm gonna take the kid from ECU. That's gonna be Caden Hauser.
Okay.
8 touchdowns in the last 2 games. Like I said, the 30 points, and then he had a 30.9. The rhythm continues as far as the guys I'm going to take coming off of a bye.
Mm-hmm.
He is 8% rostered. They get FAU, his 95th against opposing quarterbacks. So let's hope that he can put up another 30 points for me.
Yeah, that's really the only other one I liked a lot this week. So I think you got a good one. I'll point out something even further about him that I love, and that's the fact if you can get him this week, you might just keep him in for the rest of the season as you make your playoff run, because he's got Tulsa, North Texas, and Navy to finish off the season in weeks 12, 13, and 14. So, if he can keep it up and you can get lucky and grab him, he's got a perfect matchup lineup to get you through the playoffs. So he's one that you might grab and be able to keep for the rest of the season, which would be a little bit shocking to get a guy that should be able to score 25 in all of his last 4 games this late in the season.
Right.
I think it's a great call out.
Yep. All right, good
All right,
job,
so
Willie.
is it on me now?
Yep. We're up to you.
Just making
You can
sure.
wait on.
Yeah, I think that does kind of put me in taking my wide receiver here. I'll take my wide receiver 2 here. Let me pull up my notes real quick about him. Where are you? There you go.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, Jordan Tyson, wide receiver out of Arizona State, rostered on 24% of rosters here. This offense for Arizona State obviously runs mostly through Scatterboo, right? But Tyson, ever since he's really come back from his injury, right? It took him a couple weeks to really get on the field, get acclimated. He's become Levitt's best friend on that field. Very consistent over the last couple of weeks. Hasn't had less than 76 yards in any of his last 4 games. He's had 4 touchdowns over his last 4 games. That same span there, only not scoring once in the game against Cincinnati, but that was also the game where he had the most yardage. So you're feeling pretty good about that. There, he gets UCF this week. UCF very susceptible versus the pass. They're 79th in the country. They were worse even before that point. They've been facing some lesser defenses recently, or some lesser passing attacks recently that have kind of bumped up their numbers a little bit there, but they're still quite susceptible there. Definitely nothing worse than what Tyson has been facing over the last couple of weeks. So I think Tyson's an incredible grab off the waiver wire if you're looking for a very safe floor play here. I'm not exactly expecting him to, get me 25 plus points here, but if, in a full PPR setting here, you're basically locking me into 5 receptions here, 70 plus yards. Fingers crossed we can get a touchdown in here. I think that you're feeling pretty good about that. So
yeah, I had him. He was one of the 3 that I had asterisks next to grab this week, and it probably would have been the next guy I took. I like that matchup a lot against UCF, and his last 4 games, he's just been rolling. His worst game is 17 points. So he seems like as close to a guaranteed 18 or 19 points as you can get. Um, so yeah,
which probably means he's bottoming out this week, because of course, but
since Jared's grabbing him this week, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, he helped.
That's how it works.
Yeah, he went 2 weeks ago. Dwight took him, and or no, Dwight had referenced taking him a couple weeks ago in his semifinal round, but I think he was on a bye, so he did get a shout out a couple weeks ago by Dwight Peebles. Okay, so it's coming back to me. I could either grab my second receiver before Willie or get the first tight end. I don't love a lot of the tight ends out there. I've got, like I said, asterisks by 2 of them. I'm going to go ahead and grab my tight end that I think stands out among the group here, and that's Josh Simon from South Carolina. Had the huge game this week against Texas A&M, 29 points. But prior to that, he had 14. So even though he didn't have much going on prior to that, it looks like there's been a change in direction in terms of making sure he does get worked into the the play calling. He's only rostered on 9% of teams, going against Vanderbilt, who, got to kind of look at that Fantrax number, 109th against, points given up to tight ends, 77th in passing yards, 14 touchdowns allowed. He's still averaging 10 points per game, again, largely skewed by the 29 that he got this week, but he seems to be getting 5 to 8 targets on the reg. So let's go Josh Simon, South Carolina.
Yeah, that was my number 1 tight end. I mean, I only had 3, but I can see why you went that direction for sure.
Yeah, I went that direction because I had 2 wide receivers left that I like, and I knew only 2 were coming off the board. So, let's see if you you don't have to grab. You probably go tight end here, right, Willie? Since you don't have to. Well,
no,
I guess you might go receiver.
Yeah, only because I don't want you to get this wide receiver. You and I are still in the competition here. I'm on a hot streak.
5-5 for the season, Jared, and me head to head with Willie.
Nice.
Yeah, so I'm on a hot streak here. So I'm gonna take this stack, and we're gonna go Chase Sowell. And let's see. Yeah, Chase, he is coming off 4 receptions, 117 yards, and another score. Had something similar the week before against Army, 7 for 138 and a score. So I expect the Pirates to put up plenty of points this week when they play FAU, as I stated before.
What's
he is 20% rostered.
Okay. So that means Jared will probably plug in his tight end here then, since he can still wait on quarterback.
Yeah, I figure might as well go ahead and get the tight end here. I'll grab my top guy off my tight end list. I'll grab Taylor Thompson, the tight end out of James Madison there. Don't love how inconsistent this offense has been. It's mind-boggling how up and down they have been so far this year. I think it might be definitely an offense to invest in next year, because sometimes you see these up and down offenses, especially year one of a head coach's tenure. They have their sparks some weeks they don't. Second years where they really figure out how to get a consistent week to week there. But one pretty consistent piece of it has been Taylor Thompson, been very involved most weeks there. There's not a ton of great options at tight end at this point in the season.
Right.
So I was kind of surprised to see that Taylor Thompson was still kind of hanging around there under 30%. I'll take advantage of it here and just grab him and place him on my team here. You get Georgia State here as well. They're terrible against any kind of offense, rushing or passing. So I'll take it.
Against any kind of offense.
Yeah. My only problem with Taylor, and I was going to put him on the list, but it's like, okay, does he just catch it and just fall down? I was trying to figure out, why is it 3 for 5, 3 for 16? I'm just trying, I mean, he was getting 50 earlier in the season, but lately it's just, it's like, I'm going to run a 5-yard route and I'm going to fall down. So that's the only reason why I didn't put him on the list. But I agree. It's slim pickings out here as far as tight ends go.
Yep. All right. So it'll be interesting to see who you grab then with your last one, Willie, which will be coming up here shortly. For me, I can fill in either spot here. I'll go ahead and knock out this wide receiver. He did me dirty in his last game that I had him. I think he only had 5 points a couple weeks ago. That's Chris Hudson. But I still like what he was showing before that when he had 22 a couple of times, another 15-point game. And he's still getting the targets. So it might be a little bit inefficient in terms of the catches versus the targets. But they're gonna get him 10 targets almost no matter what. And hopefully he catches 6 or 7 of those is all I'm saying. Chris Hudson from Washington State. Another reason is it's one of those great matchups that you love to see coming, going against Utah State, another team that's very bad against the pass D, giving up touchdowns, giving up yards, and we know Washington State is going to be throwing the ball. And Hudson better not let me down. I don't think he has it in him to get single digits 2 times in a row. He's going to revert back to what he was doing the 3 previous weeks, and I'm giving him another shot. So come on, Hudson.
Yeah, if anything, you are loyal when it comes to picking your guys.
What am I?
You are loyal.
Hey, I had Hudson as my number 6 guy. If all else failed, he was there for me. So another signal of approval here from me, J Mill.
Right. Yeah, because look, I'm picking him as the 6th wide receiver.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, I'm gonna take a guy who has been kind of hot recently, and that you can't really say that for too many other tight ends around. But that's going to be Landon Morris from Temple.
Okay.
13.7 2 weeks ago, and then came back against ECU, had 9.1. So he's getting the targets. He's making use of those targets, and finally got in the end zone again. So Landon Morris.
Yeah, you had mentioned him a couple weeks ago as a guy to keep an eye on. So I guess you've still been keeping your eye on him.
Yeah, he's 0% rostered, and then like I said, another guy coming off a bye. They get Tulane, but Tulane is 85th against opposing tight ends. So
right. Yeah, a little bit tougher matchup. Not the Tulane that we're used to seeing though. They're still giving up some yards, some touchdowns. So you don't fear playing Tulane like you used to do the last couple of years. That's for sure. But yeah, his quarterback's been on fire too. So with Simon, so not bad. I like it. I had him on the list. He was 3rd on my list. So you took him 3rd, Willie, just so you get my approval.
Yeah, he was 2nd on mine, and so I guess that just what does that mean? Dorian Fleming was the only other guy?
No, I had. I didn't want to take him. That's why I grabbed tight end when I did. I had Traore from Mississippi State, but he's playing Tennessee, so I said no.
Same.
But if you've got to, okay, maybe. And then I've believed in Randy Pittman from UCF for a couple of years, thinking he's going to finally catch on. he did this week, but I just don't know if he can do it again. But if you're reaching, Pittman from UCF's only rostered on 3% of teams, and that's your swing for the fences guy if you absolutely need to fill a hole there at tight end and can't get any of these other guys. Maybe
J-Milk accounts for all 3% of that.
Well,
I might.
Exactly.
Yeah. He's definitely a best ball guy from the beginning of the season for me, for sure.
All right, Jared, who's your quarterback here?
Yeah, Jared, finish your team off here. Who do you like here? I'm very curious about this since we talked about the quarterbacks being thinner than usual this week.
I'm decided between two quarterbacks that are playing against each other this week. One guy that we've kind of talked about definitely multiple times over the last couple of weeks is, I'd say, one of the, I don't want to say fully safer guys out there, because he's had a game or two, like below 20 points here, or lost his stats. There we go. Yeah, he's had a couple of dud games here, but mostly he kind of lives in the 19 to 24 point range, right? So I'm not taking him here because I'm actually gonna go with the other guy. But like Sam Levitt, like he's been a very safer guy, but I'm actually going to go with our new Gus Malzahn quarterback in Dylan Risk. I can't remember if he's a redshirt freshman or a true freshman there, but he's providing for UCF what they've been missing all year, and that's just been a consistent passer. And I was afraid at first when I heard that, like, oh no, that's going to really kind of kill the rushing upside of this quarterback position. But to my pleasant surprise, over the last couple of weeks, he's shown an ability to run the ball as well. Like, you're not getting me John Rice Plumlee or Ja'Cory Brown levels of rushing yardage here, right? But 31 yards versus BYU, and him playing half that game, 55 yards this past week against Arizona in a blowout there. Like, I'm not unimpressed there. I like to see that he can kind of provide that floor there as well. On top of the fact that, again, he's just so much better of a passer than we've seen out of the other UCF quarterbacks here. Again, 10 plus yards per attempt in both of the games that he's gotten pretty extensive action in here. 10 yards per attempt against that BYU defense is a pretty solid stat to put up there. So I like that he can do that against a pretty solid defense, which, Arizona State's defense is a little bit here, right? So
yep.
I'm a little bit concerned about the matchup there. I'm scared that this might be a matchup that kind of ends in 24 to 21 kind of deal, limited scoring opportunities. At the end of the day, like, it's a Gus Malzahn quarterback at the end of the day, and he shows that he can run. So there's plenty of upside to be had here with Dylan Risk.
Yeah, my only fear there is he's the fourth quarterback to play. I just, if one mistake, I don't know if they're going to yank him or if they've just had enough and he's going to be their guy for the rest of the way.
I don't know, man.
About that?
Coming off a game where he had 80% completion, almost 300 yards, like, I think they're going to give him a little bit longer of a leash, because, like, Ja'Cory Brown, right, he comes in and, yeah, he can provide it on the ground, but it was very clear from the beginning, like, he's very limited passing. Risk really does look like he gives them the best of both worlds. So unless he completely bottoms out this week, which is not impossible, I think they'll give him every shot against Arizona State. Because, like, what else is UCF really playing for, right? It's not like they're in the Big 12 championship hunt.
Absolutely, and I absolutely agree with you on that completion percentage. I mean, that's the thing that they've been missing, and so if they can keep his attempts down, and he's that proficient with the ball, why not stick with him, regardless of what the record's going to be? See what you got.
Yeah, and for those of you looking for additional options, he seems to have a pretty good affinity with one Jacoby Jones, the Ohio transfer wide receiver over there. He's gotten, I think, 10 plus targets in each of, or not 10 plus targets, excuse me, but I think he had 100 plus yards in each of his last two games. Let me see if I can find his stats real quick. Yeah, 106 last week and the 116 the week before, touchdown each of those. So it seems like Risk got a pretty good chemistry there with him if you're wanting extra names.
All right.
And I'm literally making my last decision here, as Jared was filibustering there for me. I've got two running backs that I think give you a decent opportunity based on the volume they've been seeing, and I'm kind of flipping a coin here between Elijah Young from Western Kentucky and Javante Barnes from Oklahoma. I think the deciding factor is going to be the matchup. Barnes is getting the carries at Oklahoma with 17 or 18 a game, but he's playing Missouri, who isn't the best, but they're more middle of the pack. While Elijah Young and Western Kentucky are going against New Mexico State. So I think I'm going to lean that way. New Mexico State is very bad against the run. Again, giving up tons of yards, 22 TDs. It's a little bit surprising, but Elijah Young seeing 15 to 20 carries a game, which you probably never thought you'd see consistently from a WKU running back. But the last 4 games, they've proven they're going to give him the ball quite a bit. So I like Elijah Young. He's kind of steadily turned out 15 to 20 point games. He's averaging 14 and a half on the season. But I think he's become a little bit of an anchor there that they can rely on. So give me Elijah Young going against New Mexico State is my final running.
I'm glad you saved yourself there, J-Mill, because I actually have Javonte Barnes listed as one of my waiver wire traps for this week. Good. I think that, again, people got to be careful with that Oklahoma matchup last week. Yeah, obviously I like the volume that Barnes has been getting, but that offense still stinks. That offense still smells like something you want to stay super, super far away from.
There's no way I would even touch Barnes.
Started. He said he wasn't going to talk as much. Now you're going to get him going.
No, there's not much for me to add. There's no way I would have touched Barnes.
All right. Well, I'm glad I made the right decision, guys, and put some serious thought into that. And definitely the matchup is what I was leaning more towards. But thanks for the reminder that the Oklahoma offense has no clue what they're doing, Jared.
No, I mean, like I said, it's looked better. I mean, he's getting his touches. It's just, it's just bad. Let's not let Maine be the thing that we just, we've forgotten about what happened the month and a half before.
Right. Yeah, I don't think we can get excited about anybody's stats from last week from Oklahoma. That's for sure.
Right.
Mm-hmm. I'm not rolling out Jackson Arnold again this week. I can tell you that much.
No. And with that, we've got it complete. The semifinal round drafts are wrapped up. But I know, Jared, you mentioned on Twitter this morning you were really disgusted by the number of good players going on bye that would have been available to pick up.
Oh, yeah.
For this contest, that doesn't work. I'm sure on your podcast, you're going to talk about those guys that can carry people into the playoffs. So let's give that a couple of minutes. I know a lot of the guys that are on my others to consider list, I saved for this conversation because I had about 4 or 5 guys that are on buys that have excellent playoff matchups that, while other people are sleeping and looking at the fact that they have a bye, if you look down the road, who are a couple of guys you were thinking of when you were talking about those good players that are on bye this week that might help people out to finish off the season, Jared?
Caden Anderson, quarterback out of Wyoming, I think he's got the goods. I think that we could see a different level of that Wyoming offense get unlocked there. I mean, obviously they played against New Mexico this past week, and as Willie kind of alluded to earlier with one of his picks, that one of the picks he was talking about, like New Mexico's, or no, it was J-Mill. J-Mill was talking about Jordan Napier. That New Mexico defense is absolutely atrocious, and so you can sit there and say okay, it's a bit of a mirage there, but he did pretty well the week before there as well. Definitely much better than what Savoba has been able to provide them. Not as much on the ground as Savoba, but I don't think that's what Wyoming really needed at this point. Wyoming's got it handled on the ground between Sam Scott or Harrison Whaley, whichever one of those guys is healthy. They got a running back that they can work with there. So I liked Anderson. At running back, the one name that really kind of stands out to me is Amari Daniels. With Le'Veon Moss, his kind of situation kind of up in the air, right? We didn't get to see it a ton yesterday because, Texas A&M was playing from behind for the most part. But Le'Veon Moss, man, he's quietly had a top 20 CFF season to this point. If he's out for any kind of extended period of time over the next couple of weeks, which given the fact he had to be carried off the field, obviously doesn't look good. Yeah. Daniels could be in for a pretty solid run over the next couple of weeks. Gerald Green, running back out of Troy, was another one that I was kind of looking at there. He's quietly had close to 20 carries each in the last 3 games. And then wide receivers.
Let me tell, I had him on my notes, and while you're on him, his last 3 weeks after the bye this week, he's finishing off against Georgia Southern, Louisiana Lafayette, and Southern Mississippi, who are all in the hundreds against the run. And again, he kind of came out of nowhere his last 2 games and had 19 and 20 carries. But those are the trends you're looking for here at the end when you might get an injured player or somebody that you just has faded away. Look for the guys that are also ticking upwards, like Green, because he's got a very, very favorable schedule for the last 3 games, which for most people would be all 3 playoff weeks.
And then the last one is the guy that was shockingly not taken on this show last week. And that is Eric Rivers, wide receiver at FIU. His monster performance this past week.
Right.
He's still rostered under 30% there. He's on bye this week, but I don't see how FIU doesn't continue to still feed him the ball.
Right. Correct. Right. And he's got that perfect matchup too. I took a note of that. Jacksonville State, Kennesaw State, and Middle Tennessee. So he's a guy who is on a bye who just happens to be under 30% and just happens to be playing 3 very bad pass defenses in his final run. So there you go. I'll mention one quarterback that you didn't touch on. Similar situation, Owen McCowan from UTSA. He's got North Texas and Temple in weeks 12 and 13. So, again, if you're starting your playoffs in week 12 or trying to get into the playoffs with week 12 and have the first round of week 13, he's a guy that you can grab. You mentioned the other guys there. So we're on the same page as far as everybody Jared mentioned. Willie, do you have anybody else that you wanted to put on the radar here for the final run for everyone?
As far as our purposes, and like I said, we're in a couple, especially our super starters, where the teams are rather large. Getting a quarterback, especially in your super flex, you're talking about a guy from Buffalo, CJ Agbana, the quarterback. I like when they come off by Ball State, Eastern Michigan, and then Kent. So, I mean, if you have a super flex and you're desperate for a quarterback, this may be the option.
And who is quarterback for who?
Buffalo.
Buffalo's quarterback, yeah. All right. So there it is. What's interesting is we just gave away a lot of the players that will be taken in the finals next week.
Yep, 100%.
The guys that make it back. So we've done a lot of the homework. If these guys remain under 30, that's the key. We got to see which ones, because a lot of these guys we mentioned are kind of in that high 20 range. I will say Gerald Green is on 1% of teams. So if you can't get Gerald Green, I feel bad for you. He's apparently just on 1% of rosters because he didn't emerge until these last 2 weeks. So he's one that you should be able to definitely steal and will definitely be available, I would guess, for us next week.
Yeah, and one more wide receiver who probably won't go, maybe because of the matchup, and it's going to be from Akron Zips, Adrian Norton. So he had a 29.8, but, we might be steering away from him since his NIU, depending on what Jared decides to do, if he can get to the finals. But we'll see.
All right. Gerald, thinking of Gerald Green. Jared Palmgren. Jared Palmgren. Yeah, we wish you the best. We know you've got 85 points in you somewhere. You've got to get back to the finals to finish this thing off. So we wish you the best of luck, and everybody out there, good luck. I mean, this for most leagues this year, that have at least 6 teams in the playoffs, this is the last week of the season. There are a few, like our home league that goes into week 12, but this is it, your last chance to get in there. So I wish everybody luck. You could catch Jared at Chasing the Natty on his acclaimed podcast, one of the best in the biz, the hardest working man in CFF, besides maybe the Winning Edge, who is constantly filling out those spreadsheets. Jared's also part of that Campus Canton crew that's helped grow the hobby we love so much. But Jared, anything you want to? What are you going to be talking about this week on your podcast that will drop in the morning?
I mean, same thing we've been talking about the last couple of weeks. Really, again, our waiver show is pretty split up into the same things every week. Again, I got a freak out scale segment, talk about guys that really at this point used to start the season. It's like guys we liked in the preseason versus now. Now, like this week, we'll be touching on Kyle McCord, Eli Holstein, Pafele Ashlock, some guys have kind of dropped off over the last couple of weeks compared to how they had been performing to this point in the season, and like how freaked out you should be about that. I got a couple of waiver traps that we'll be taking a look at that look like they're nice for the next couple of weeks, but I'm telling you, hold off on them. I already alluded that Javonte Barnes will be one of those guys. And then, of course, got to go in depth on the waiver ones. And like you said already, this show is great for picking up guys for this week. I'm definitely trying to take a look at some guys that'll be strong this week and in the playoff weeks to come.
Okay.
All right, sounds good. You guys be sure to check out Jared. I know I'm going to be listening in the morning because there's a few gems that I need to get me through the playoffs. So I'll definitely be checking that out, Jared, in the morning. So thank you guys. Yep, thank you guys for watching and listening, and good luck this week.
Appreciate it, y'all.
Okay, thanks.